yourself, what caused that person to be like that? Now, some people are just mean, nasty, awful people, but not everybody is. So what caused that person to do that? Could it be that for 10 years being called deplorables, awful, Bible thumpers, killers, racists, Nazis, I don't know, tends to push people to the edge and have them, say, I'm gonna hit back. I'm gonna hit back. I ask you today to be the best person that you can be. I ask you today to be loving and to take this opportunity to show the other side who might be saying horrible things. I'm so happy I'm in the mountains and not have access to everything. Who might be saying nasty things, that you don't strike back. You show them who we are. We knelt down as a family and prayed for President Trump and his family. And then we also prayed for President Biden, and we prayed for RFK. We pray for any of our leaders. This is not who we are. This is what I believe some want us to become. Pray for peace. Pray for the Democrats who are going to repeat 1968 in Chicago. If we can just come together, we will never lose our country. But millions and billions of dollars have been spent to divide us apart, and it's a lie. All we have to do is to return to our principles, and one of our principles is we don't shoot our presidents. We find that offensive. No matter who is being shot, no matter which side is being shot or attempted to be assassinated, we don't do that because we're Americans. I pray again for the Republic. Lord, hear our prayer, heal our land. See the millions of people that are turning to you and asking for safety and forgiveness, Lord. Bless President Trump and his family. Bless all those that are around. Bless them from this shock. Heal our president. Heal our land. Heal our hearts. And save the Republic. In Jesus' name, I will see you Monday back on the radio with more.
Real Talk with the RN Diva and Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
Describing what happened. Important to note here, he is also, of course, extending condolences to the person who was hurt, the person who was believed to be killed there, and thanking law enforcement for their incredibly fast response. And you saw the response, Lester, in one of these remarkable moments as it unfolded. In some quarters, in some places online, there was a live stream of this happening. Obviously, the cameras of every network in the country were on this, given that he is the presumptive Republican nominee, of course, before this happened. And you see the absolute chaos there in Butler that we've been describing from Dasha, from Jillian, from Jake and Bianca and our teams there as the rest of it unfolded there. So again, Lester, the first statement that we are getting from the former president himself, posted, as Donald Trump is wont to do, posted on an online platform there on Truth Social as he's looking to get the message out immediately, as quickly as he can, it appears, to the American people, that he appears to be okay, that he's extending his condolences, and specifically what happened, as he says, that bullet hit his ear, Lester.
Yeah, incredible to look at how close that was to hitting a vital area of him. That first description from the former president himself, Hallie Jackson, thanks very much. Our senior White House correspondent, Kelly O'Donnell, joins us. Kelly, you have a new statement from President Biden.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to go to Garrett Hake right now. Garrett?
Lester, in reading Okay, looks like we
Reading
lost
that statement from Donald Trump, confirming that in fact he was shot in this incident in Butler tonight. I think about the times that I've discussed his safety with members of his campaign over the last year or so, and there has always been tension and awareness in the minds of Donald Trump's campaign staff, even at senior levels, of the risk that he takes every time he goes out. Campaign officials will tell you that he gets an enormous amount of threats, frankly, as many politicians do across the political spectrum, and that the campaign has worked across this very long period of time since he first announced more than a year ago that he would be running for president to balance, in some cases, his desire to hold these kind of mega rallies, these huge outdoor events, with his personal safety. They are very cautious about using what is known in the industry as OTR stops, the idea of him appearing at short notice in certain locations where folks cannot necessarily be screened in the same manner that they are by the Secret Service at events like this. And, you know, any presidential campaign thinks about the candidate's safety. It's a major part of the job. You work with the Secret Service for that reason. But this has been front and center in the minds of campaign staffers going back really since before the launch of this campaign. Obviously, an unusual campaign in the sense that here is someone who has never not had Secret Service protection from the moment he was first sworn in 2017 through this moment. And I think looking ahead now, and this is something that we're trying to report out, is what, if anything, is going to change about the Republican convention next week? Obviously, the former president was set to arrive there on Monday morning. He was expected to be in Milwaukee across those 4 days. These conventions, as many of our viewers know, are very much high security situations. Downtowns locked down days in advance, very difficult to go in or out. What will change in the security, and what will change in the messaging of this convention? We've already seen some of Donald Trump's allies, perhaps most notably his son, Eric Trump, making use of that image on your screen right now, the fist pump from Donald Trump in the moments after we now know that he was shot, to say that this is the fighter America needs, in the words of Eric Trump and in the words of many of his allies, who I think, you know, setting aside the moment that we're in right now, and especially knowing from the former president's own lips now, or his own fingertips, I suppose, that he's going to be okay. This image of him as a fighter is so central to his political identity, so central to his campaign's strategy, and something that I'm sure will be incorporated into whatever we see of the convention next week. What changes might be taking place right now, Lester, very difficult to say. The campaign is on a complete lockdown, not talking to the press, really working through first what's going on with their candidate and what their next steps will be tomorrow and in the days ahead.
All right, we're looking at a motorcade leaving a nearby hospital that has been under heavy security here since all this happened. We have not received confirmation that former President Trump has been treated there, but we did just see it looked like a small motorcade leaving the area. So we'll continue to monitor that picture. Gary, why have you here? Let's talk about what is likely on the minds of a lot of people. I mean, certainly we're looking at a case where there has been a loss of life. Another spectator has been seriously injured. But this comes as the country and Democrats are still wrestling with the issues over the President Biden's performance in the debate. And now this, I guess it'll take some days to play out as to whether we're looking at another reset and changing how people view this.
All right. We're going to break in here. We do have a message from former President Donald Trump through his Truth Social social media site. Says, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all law enforcement for the rapid response to the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at the time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew something immediately was wrong. I knew immediately that something was wrong, and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America. That's from former President Donald Trump. Let's go back to we're going to go back to our coverage here. Live coverage. We've been covering MSNBC. We've been covering CNN and Fox News. Let's go back, make the rounds. Let's go back to Fox News. And continue this live coverage. Reports have been saying that he is planning on being at the UFC fight tonight that he was planning on being at anyway. So we'll see. Maybe the Secret Service will supersede that. All right, we'll see.
It's a long paragraph. I'm going to read it now, okay? During former President Trump's campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on the evening of July 13, at approximately 6:15 p.m., a suspected shooter fired multiple shots toward the stage from an elevated position outside of the rally venue. U.S. Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. U.S. Secret Service quickly responded with protective measures, and former President Trump is safe. One spectator was killed, 2 spectators critically injured. This incident is currently under investigation, and the Secret Service has notified the FBI. Shannon, what clearly sticks out is that line about a suspected shooter firing multiple shots from an elevated position outside of the rally venue, which would synchronize with some of the things we've been picking up on social media about a man dead on top of a roof outside of the rally itself.
And witnesses who were there on the scene have talked with our Alexis McAdams. I want to read too from Ivanka Trump saying, "Thank you for your love and prayers for my father and for other victims of today's senseless violence in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to the Secret Service and all the other law enforcement officers for their quick and decisive actions today. I continue to pray for our country. I love you, Dad, today and always."
Wow. Jason Chaffetz, quickly to you. I've got some more information, but go ahead, Jason.
This is a catastrophic failure of the United States Secret Service. The men and women who jumped on the former president, got in between him and a would-be shooter, they're heroes. But if there was a person with a gun within proximity to take down the president of the United States, those people have got to be held accountable. They should be fired. There is no reason that a gun should be within close proximity that can shoot a former president of the United States. That's why we have the Secret Service, and they failed us today. They failed us.
Jason, thank you. Jake Gibson reports the ID is not confirmed. Federal law sources, enforcement sources tell us the shooter's identity is still unconfirmed, and they're working on it. But first reports suggest the shooter was not carrying ID. So that is the initial report about the potential identity of the shooter. Shannon, you've got Fox News Sunday tomorrow morning. You will be on this story then. And thank you for your excellent work tonight.
You too, my friend.
All right, here's Sean.
And welcome to Hannity. And this is a Fox News alert. Today, the former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, was the target of an apparent assassination attempt. One innocent attendee is now dead. President Trump, we are told, is alive and well and now in a safe location. The shooter, meanwhile, has been killed by U.S. Secret Service. And just breaking moments ago, President Trump's first reaction on Truth Social, quote, "I want to thank the U.S. Secret Service and all of law enforcement for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country." Now, nothing is known at this time about the shooter, who is now dead. He said, "I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong, in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America." According to the Secret Service tonight, quote, during former President Trump's campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on the evening of July 13th at approximately 6:15 p.m., a suspected shooter fired multiple shots towards the stage from an elevated position outside of the rally venue. U.S. Secret Service personnel neutralized the shooter, who is now deceased. U.S. Secret Service quickly responded with protective measures, and former President Trump is safe. One spectator was killed. 2 spectators were critically injured. This incident is currently under investigation. The Secret Service has notified the FBI. And in case you missed it, here's what went down just a few hours ago with sound. Take a listen. Take a look.
Take a look at what happened.
Moving to there. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Moving to the stair. Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready.
We ready? Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move?
We're clear. We're
Let's
clear.
move. Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes.
Hold on your head, buddy.
So we got to move to the class. Let me get my shoes. Okay, my shoes down. What's up? Wait.
His chief social. All right, we have full, complete news coverage all throughout the evening tonight. Joining us now with the very latest, live from Pennsylvania, Alexis McAdams. Alexis, what's the latest on the ground?
Hi, Sean. Well, being there in that media area, in the press area, watching the former president speak, he was just getting into immigration. The excitement was building. People were clapping and cheering, yelling, "Make America Great Again." And then you heard a series of loud pops. People really didn't even have time to react. Some people did hit the ground. Then we saw the Secret Service rush in. We're talking about the federal, the state, and local agencies doing everything they could as the former president then went down, Sean, right behind that podium. Coming back up a short time later after somebody yelled, "The shooter is down," with law enforcement, and on his ear you saw some blood. So that happened so quickly, and people came out here to support the former president. They were excited to see him, and then they left with this horrible tragedy. Take a look here. We're in this pan, Sean. You can see what's going on in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's cleared out now, but for hours after that shooting, people were stuck in traffic trying to get out because it is an active crime scene. So we're trying to piece this all together, and that includes talking to witnesses like Brandon, who you said you were up there pretty close to where the former president was speaking. What exactly did you hear and what did you see?
We're all just there, looking up at the screen that he has up, and I heard a loud pop, and I thought it was like the speaker cracking. And we heard another one, and then people started screaming, and so we all just hit the ground, and I started looking around as to what was going on, and I saw one of the Secret Service guys. He was firing back. There was probably 6-7 shots total, maybe. And then I look up in the bleachers, and people are just screaming and crying, and there's just blood everywhere. One of the guys got hit. And
knowing that somebody was hit, so now we know, obviously the former president had a graze wound to his ear. He's expected to be, he'll be okay, he says. But to know somebody who came to this Trump rally just like you that was sitting right by you doesn't get to go home tonight with their family. You said you were sitting there and you saw the man who was shot actually near his family, and they were crying. What else? You went through the scene a little bit. What did you see? It sounded kind of gruesome.
Yeah, there was blood all over his family members. There was a guy up there trying to administer CPR. It all happened so quick, still trying to process everything. And we're just all down on the ground, and people down on the ground are crying. We don't know what to do. People are just screaming and crying. And then all of a sudden people started standing up, and we start walking out. And we looked on top of the AGR building, and there was Secret Service up there. They were standing around what we now know was the shooter. At that time, we really didn't know where it was coming from.
And to set this up, Sean, so when we were inside there, we're in the back with the media, and then when you could see the former president wasn't too far up from us speaking, this was all happening to his right. So this AGR building that we're talking about is the American Glass Research Building. That's at like 68th and Whitestown here in Butler, so that's just outside of the ground. So it wasn't like this person entered, because we've been talking about safety and security and the Secret Service doing those pat-downs and checking bags. According to what we know right now from witnesses and the police is that this person was on a rooftop of this AGR building, which is outside of those grounds. So then you saw the people kind of surround that building. And going back to that man, though, and his family, were people crying and were people running out after they saw someone was shot?
No one really started running. We just all kind of hit the ground, and people were yelling for paramedics and police to come. And there was probably 6 or 7 state troopers that just all of a sudden showed up out of nowhere, and they hauled him off the bleachers, and who was dead at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for talking to us. I'm glad that you're okay. I'm glad your family's okay. But I think most people are still in shock. I mean, just trying to piece this all together. But it is important to point out, as we look at kind of the layout of where the former president was when he was grazed by that bullet on his ear, and then goes down, where this shooter was, according to investigators, was up on that roof of the AGR building outside of the farm grounds. Sean.
Alexis, great reporting. Let's go back to President Trump's statement on Truth Social. It pierced his upper right ear, is what he said. So what we're really talking about here is we're talking about maybe 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, and he was probably assassinated. That's how close this guy got from this.
All right, we're going to break in here again from Fox News coverage here, and we'll go back to we'll go over to CNN and MSNBC in a moment. I do want to read this, and we're going to go also to Alex Jones because he has another statement here. Elon Musk, he just tweeted a few minutes ago, dangerous times ahead. 2 people, several occasions, have already tried to kill me in the past 8 months. They were arrested with guns about 20 minutes drive from Tesla headquarters in Texas. Elon Musk has been one of the ones that's been under target. And now let's go to Alex Jones has another statement here. Let's see what he has to say.
Listen to me very carefully. I have told you for months on air they're going to try to kill Trump. And when they try to kill Trump, they're going to go after everybody else that is his top supporters. And they also will try to kill Biden and blame it on a Trump supporter. That's coming next. Make no mistake, the same deep state that's behind Biden, that's trying to make him step down, was behind this today. They're now reporting it was an Antifa shooter who's now been killed. How convenient is that the supposed shooter has been killed? Ladies and gentlemen, our republic is in maximum danger right now. I'm about to go live at Infowars.com/show, banned.video, and right here on X. There has been an attempted assassination. The real president of the United States has been shot, and by God's good graces has survived. The bullet only grazed him over the ear and the side of his head. But ladies and gentlemen, the deep state is desperate. They are in trouble. They're going to try to expand wars. They can do power outages. They can do cyber attacks. We're in such a dangerous position. And I've noticed with all the viral videos out there, it's like, oh, he took a bullet for America. He's going to get reelected now. Ladies and gentlemen, the deep state did this. Make no mistake. And that lets you know they're going for broke. Do you fucking understand what I'm telling you? Take this deadly serious, just like war with Russia. They are going to try to kill Trump again. Now that they didn't kill him once, they are completely desperate. And I'm going to tell you again, Biden won't step down. The deep state will probably kill him or try to kill him in the next few days and blame it on a Trump supporter. And we may see massive terror attacks in America that are blamed on Trump supporters. They've been pre-programming it. They've been preparing. I've been telling you, imminent assassination attempt on Trump every damn day. Because that's what a dying, corrupt establishment does when their back is against the wall. We're living in a historical moment right now. We need Americans, people around the world, to pray for President Trump and pray for America, but also politically get out there on X and everywhere else that has some free speech and get the point out that this attempted assassination that actually wounded the president, took a bullet for America, lies at the feet of the deep state and the corporate media that said, kill him, destroy him, he deserves to die, he's a fascist, he's a Nazi. It lays at their feet. Instead, I see conservatives celebrating, hey, he'll win for sure now. It means the globalists are going to go for a broke. It means they know their time is up. So I'm glad Trump survived. I am so happy. Thank It's all on the table, and the deep state's behind it. I'll be covering it live, coming up on X at Real Alex Jones in the next 10 minutes. Join me there and share the link if you want to stop these people dead in their fucking tracks. This is time to be serious, and time to be focused, and time to stop being naive and wake up.
All right, we're going to take a station identification break here, and then we need to reset our connections here. We'll be right back.
Real Talk with the RN Diva Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
Anderson, the other thing that I think this raises obviously is the ongoing investigation. They're going to they know exactly who this person is by now, and they're going to do the necessary work to figure out everything about that person's background, to find out any political beliefs, obviously anything that could explain the motivations, given the fact that we do not have a suspect alive now at this point, according to the Secret Service. So now the work is going to be done the hard way, Anderson, which is to gather evidence from that person's background.
So Evan, just briefly, let me just clarify. It's one rally goer killed, and now you've learned others have been wounded. That's correct?
Were wounded. That's according to the Secret Service statement.
Okay. So none of that includes the gunman himself?
Right, exactly. The gunman is a separate person who's been killed by the Secret Service.
All right, Evan Perez, thank you. John Miller has new reporting about the shooter. Let's go to him. John, what have you learned? John Miller, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Anderson.
Okay, great.
What we're learning now from law, you can hear me all right?
Yes, now. Go ahead.
What we're hearing from law enforcement sources now is that an individual was seen walking through the field by people who were outside the rally. People outside the rally couldn't see, but they could hear, so they had gathered in this field.
We're having trouble.
At some point, they see him on the roof with a rifle.
John,
I'm going to try and reconnect.
Yeah,
them.
we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you shortly. Tim Naftali, you're joining us here in New York, presidential historian. Obviously, this is not something. There was the attack on Steve Scalise. We have seen obviously a number of threats that have been intercepted by law enforcement over the years, but probably not since Ronald Reagan. At the presidential level has this occurred?
Not since Ronald Reagan, but I want to read you something that I think is as powerful today as it was the first time it was written. Tonight, this nation faces once again the consequences of lawlessness, hatred, and unreason in its midst. It would be wrong, it would be self-deceptive to ignore the connection between that lawlessness and hatred and this act of violence. That was Lyndon Johnson in June of 1968. A few years later, another presidential candidate was attacked. In 1972, George Wallace was gunned down. He survived, but he was paralyzed. We have had very violent political contests before. And it's something we ought to remember. We are capable of this as a nation. The people who do it, of course, are outliers, but they are a product of the extremism and the anger and the hatred that sometimes pulses through our elections. So tonight is a terrible reminder of another period in our history, but it's something that seems to be bred in the bone. And I can understand Scott's anger and sadness. I feel it too. I feel it for everyone. I feel it for everyone in our country because the gunman attacked democracy. When you use a gun to eliminate a choice for the American people, you are shooting democracy. You are playing God. And this is not the first time it has been done in our history. I hope it's the last, but one cannot say. But it is one of those moments when we are reminded that our democracy is fragile and that we as a people need to come together, understand that our past has been violent, and recognize that we have to stand up now and try to end the violence. This is a wake-up call.
Also joining us is CNN senior political commentator David Axelrod. David, your thoughts?
I agree more with what Tim just said. You know, I lived through, as a young guy, I remember very clearly that era of violence and assassination in this country, and it was stunning then. We haven't really experienced it much yet, but lately, but we have experienced political violence of different sort, not an assassination attempt of a president or a presidential candidate, but others. And we do need to take this as a inflection point where we ask ourselves, is this where we want to go? Where we don't settle our differences peacefully, where we settle them through violence. Our system is set up so that we debate our differences and we settle them at the polling place. That's how it should be. That's how democracies function. And so we don't know what motivated this shooter yet, and we shouldn't jump to conclusions. You know, John Hinckley, who shot Ronald Reagan, was disturbed, and this seems like a more sophisticated attempt. But the other element of this, in addition to how close we came to an assassination of the candidate here, were the people who were attending this rally. You know, my initiation into politics was at a political rally when I was 5 years old. John F. Kennedy campaigning in my housing development in New York City, and that's what inspired me to politics. Never would have occurred to me or the folks, or my folks, or the people who took me, and that somehow that was a dangerous place to be. And so it's profoundly sad. I mean, whatever you think of what the president, or former president, said at that rally, or what brought people there and so on, that is not a place where people who bring their children should feel unsafe. So I think this is a bracing moment for our country, and hopefully a moment for reflection where everybody kind of pulls back from the abyss, so that we don't see this as a recurring event.
David, from the president of the United States, Joe Biden has, we're told the campaign has stopping TV ads for the time being. I mean, the Republican convention is supposed to begin on Monday. Unclear if this will impact that one way or the other. And I guess impossible at this point to know, where the campaigns go, does the tone and the tenor shift? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, a lot of vitriol, and I'm not sure any sign that will end.
No, I mean, there's so much at stake in this, in any election, and certainly in this election, and it's been a pretty bitter election to start with. And I don't know actually where it goes from here, Anderson. I mean, eventually the campaign will resume. But the fact that this happened on the doorstep of a convention has to change.
Ex-military, non-military, PTSD, drug addicts, alcoholics, wife beaters, his or her name. I don't care about his or her name. I don't care about their sexuality, what music they like, anything. I don't want to care. I don't care that they were, I don't want to hear that they were quiet guy, a loner, kept to himself. His neighbors describe him as weird. Who is some guy with three names, you know? John Walker, you know, Brian. There's always three. Lee Harvey Oswald, John Wayne Gacy. I don't want to hear this. Here's a manifesto. Keep your manifesto. I don't want to hear it. Don't lionize these people. Don't give anybody any reason to do this again. Just say, well, another one. He was dispatched. That's it. Let's move on. Are we going to find out his name? Nope. Nope. If the person was covered in tattoos and had Pelosi tattooed to his head, so what? The funniest line was, did you hear this one? The funniest thing was, Nancy Pelosi said, well, you know, Nancy Pelosi, she's an expert on political crime because her husband, I said, oh, you're not going to bring that one up again. Let me ask you something. How many people do you think need to know about the shooter? How many people? You want to know about the shooter? I want to make sure the shooter wasn't, you know, hired or wasn't a part of some kind of a special ninja team, whatever. But aside from that, do you care about anything about the shooter? Do you? Do you? Anybody? Do you care the person's name? Do you care where the person lives? What he looks like? Do you? Do you want to know what he thought? What music you like? Do you want to read pictures? You want to see this one? Want to see this? Anybody? They were making, they even referenced Las Vegas. They even mentioned Las Vegas and the shooting at Las Vegas. Las Vegas. You sure you want to go into Las Vegas? Remember that one? Las Vegas. We never heard any. That story was the craziest. The ammo this guy had to bring up. Nobody knows anything about that. And you know, right now it's, and I do believe, and I will take this to heart, that they are happy, especially people in the biz, they're happy that nothing happened to Trump. Because when you're in that biz long enough, when you're in that biz, you yourself say, you know, he's kind of one of us. And all of us who have to go out and speak before folks, we don't like to hear about this. Now, I hope people like Maxine Waters kind of tones it down. She's been good lately. But remember the old days, she goes, I want you, if you're at a filling station restaurant, you call people out and you see somebody. Don't do that. Don't do anything that gives people the idea that maybe they should do something. They should act up. Period. That they should act up. Find out if there was any kind of conspiracy behind this. That's right, criminal conspiracy. Find out who put him up to it. And that's it. Prosecute people as it is. Now, can you imagine his next rally? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the next rally? The DNC, well, let me tell you this way. The DNC convention is Monday. No, I'm sorry. It's not DNC, GOP. GOP is Monday. It's Monday through Thursday. Do you know, in Milwaukee, do you know what that place is going to do when Donald Trump walks out? Do you have any idea, any clue, any idea, anything of what it's going to look like when Donald Trump shows up? Do you have any? No, you don't. This might be the biggest, loudest, this thunderous applause will be like something you've never heard. It will be a coronation, and it's fresh in our minds. It's Monday. It starts Monday. This is Saturday. And Joe Biden is thinking, and I got to hand it to him. Joe Biden was very good. He wasn't prompterish. I think he spoke from the heart. He was good. Give the guy a break. When he does the right thing, tell him it was good. And everybody so far, everybody to an extent. And don't expect anything from, please, don't Joy Behar does not have to say anything. And Whoopi Goldberg and all these other people don't have to say anything. And they don't, I know that means a lot to them. Long live Donald J. Trump. Indeed, Mr. Lynch. Indeed. Without a doubt. But that moment, now the DNC is going to be saying, oh my God, what the hell are we going to do now? Oh my God.
Is he carrying ID? Has it been verified? If he wasn't, have they done the live scan fingerprints? Do they have that ID? If they do, are they moving towards that residence for the search warrants? There are scores of things that are happening in the background right now.
One quick question before I let you go, John, and you used to work at the NYPD, so you've seen these kinds of incidents, shooting incidents during the course of your career. In his statement, Donald Trump just said, and I'm quoting him now, "I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear." Now, if someone is shot with a bullet that pierces the upper part of your right ear, wouldn't that bullet also continue onto someone's skull and create a much more dangerous situation?
So that's a great question, Wolf. And you know what the intent of a shooter with a rifle in an attempted assassination is to get that bullet to go into the head and across. What may have happened here is that either the way the former president turned or the angle that the shooter had on that shot, it may have just grazed the outside, piercing the skin and carrying on. What's going to be really interesting, and this is how we're going to know whether it was hit by a ricochet or a fragment or a graze wound, is what did they recover from that wound? Is there a piece of a metal jacket from a round that was fired that they took out of the president where that cut is above the ear, or did the projectile continue on? That's why they cleared that area. And they did that at the expense of, there were literally hundreds and hundreds of eyewitnesses that they want to interview, but they also wanted to preserve that crime scene and get those ballistics and connect it to that weapon and get all the evidence they could.
Yeah, good point. Indeed, a lot of investigation will be needed. And Trump added that he immediately felt that the bullet ripping through the skin, much bleeding took place. So I realized then what was happening. I mean, a lot of bleeding, the bullet ripping through the skin could have been, God forbid, a lot worse indeed. John Miller, thank you very much. Anderson, back to you.
Wolf, thanks. It is about 9:30 p.m. here on the East Coast. This occurred around 6:15 p.m. in Butler, Pennsylvania. If you're just joining us, I'm going to be playing what the former president, how this began, the former president making remarks shortly into the beginning of this campaign appearance. Let's watch.
No, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Move it spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to the spare. Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready. You ready? Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move? We're clear. Let's move. Let's move. We're clear. Let me get my shoes. I got you, sir. Let me get my shoes, sir. Hold on, your head is bloody.
So we got to move to the bus. Move to the bus. Okay, watch out.
CNN primetime anchors Caitlin Collins and Abby Phillip are here with me. Caitlin, I know you've been talking to sources. What's the latest you're hearing?
The entire campaign apparatus is just deeply rattled. A lot of people have not been able to have a chance to speak with the former president directly. A few of them have. Obviously, we heard from him himself, but even his children just had a few brief moments on the phone with them. We've heard from most of them so far, all obviously still processing this. I mean, obviously, every president is hyper aware of their security and their surroundings ever since what happened to President Reagan and also JFK. Donald Trump himself is also one of those. I mean, I've been to dozens of these rallies. This is outside, obviously, so the security perimeter is different, but you go through Secret Service security to go into any rally like this. You go through a magnetometer, you have that instance. I should note what I'm hearing from a lot of them is questions about the security here and what happened and how something like this could happen, because it does seem unthinkable, I think. And the House Oversight Chair, James Comer, just put out a statement saying that he has reached out to Secret Service Director. He's requesting briefings. We are going to see action on Capitol Hill as a result of this, even though we are very much still learning so much of this. But I also spoke with people who were there. I'm not going to say the name of one of the people I was on the phone with just because they had to get off very quickly, so I don't want to disclose their identity. But they were right up there near the front when this happened. And they said you could see Trump react as obviously, as he says now, it was a bullet that grazed his ear. And you can hear the panic in his voice in those first few moments in the audio where he's saying, let me get my shoes, let me get my shoes. And then he's whisked off stage. He pumped his fist, as you can see here in this photo right now. I was told that as he was taken down into the motorcade before he was taken to the hospital there in Butler, Pennsylvania, he kind of pumped his fist again and had this defiant kind of stance, you know, reacting in the moment to what happened. He has left the hospital, but a lot of people obviously are still just trying to get in touch with him and to talk to him in the aftermath of this.
Yeah, I mean, it is inconceivable that something like this could have happened. I mean, I've covered President Obama, President Trump, candidates, even at outdoor rallies. In fact, especially at outdoor rallies, the kind of security that they would have, the perimeter, not just where people are going, but all the buildings surrounding it. There's a reason that that whole apparatus is supposed to extend even beyond just the rally itself. And it's because of this country's long, dark history with exactly this scenario.
Right. I mean, they have counter snipers who are with binoculars scanning
all
buildings
over.
all
so
over.
Usually on top of those very buildings. And so, I mean, this is not, unfortunately, as Tim said, not a new scenario for this country. In fact, it is a scenario that's played out too many times in this country, and the Secret Service is deeply aware of that. Every single time that a protectee comes even close to an incident like this, it's something that sets off an incredible amount of soul searching within the organization, and I'm sure this one will too. But for the country tonight, I think so many people it doesn't matter where you are in the political spectrum. I'm hearing from them, obviously, tonight. People are stunned and they're worried. They are worried about what is going to happen in this country. We still have some 4 months before the end of this election, and this is occurring before a major political event. There is a lot of fear in the country right now about what this portends and also what it says about where we are.
And you think, I mean, it's, there's Ronald Reagan, but Steve Scalise, Nancy Pelosi, the man who
Gabby
came to
Giffords,
her house,
who pulled out a statement tonight
her husband,
as well.
Gabby Giffords as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these incidents before, but there's something, Anderson, particular about it happening in the context of a presidential campaign. It's a sign, as President Biden said tonight, of a sickness in the country, that someone thought to take a step to alter or affect the outcome of a presidential election with an act like this. And for the people who are watching tonight, who are wondering what this means, I mean, they are right to wonder, because I think we all have to be prepared for a lot of chaos ahead. But I also think it's a moment for the country to decide right now what kind of country we live in, and whether or not this is the kind of thing that is going to really change how we conduct ourselves. I mean, I think it is still within the power of patriotic citizens in this country to push back against this kind of darkness.
Well, and just on the security aspect of this, there were counter snipers there. You can see them in videos, because there's a building behind. Obviously, he's in Butler County. This is deep Trump country, but there's a building that you can see that was kind of behind where Trump is out on the stage. You can see it in the photos that people who were there took, and the videos that they took. You see the counter snipers on there. You can see them anytime Trump is somewhere. You often see them. I think also the question, and what we're hearing tonight, you mentioned the Republican convention that is starting in Milwaukee on Monday, where Trump and many of his surrogates were slated to travel to as soon as tomorrow. We are told it is still expected to go forward. We'll see if that changes as the night progresses and as this investigation is getting underway. But security was already an issue there. The footprint, the RNC wanted it to be wider than what it was. I do think this is only going to make it and the Democratic convention in Chicago in a month from now only even more intense as they're learning more about this.
I do, to the point we just made, we have new video, and it's from a BBC interview with a man who claimed to be an eyewitness, who was also outside the perimeter of this. We cannot independently verify his account, but we think it's important you see. Take a look.
We noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof, we can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
I want to bring in our John Miller as well. John, I'm sure you've seen that interview. What do you make of it? Clearly, it raises really a lot of questions.
Serious questions. And it's consistent with what police have been getting in their interviews with people who saw this guy cross the field and climb this roof. But the question it raises is, he's saying they're pointing him out to the police, and the police are, I guess he's not clear about how they're reacting, but he said they're running around. Are they communicating with others to say, who is that on the roof? He says they're pointing to the Secret Service guys on the next roof and pointing to this roof and saying, do you see this guy? And that's going to be all that communication about who is this individual? Is it law enforcement or is it someone else? If it's law enforcement, they should already know that, which has got to be setting off alarms. And in a very short time between him being spotted up there on the roof with the rifle and the incident, there's going to be an extraordinarily, excruciatingly detailed examination about who knew what, how was this communicated, and who determined to take what action or not take what action as they sorted out who this person was before he opened fire, at which point they took immediate action. But this is going to be deeply examined for a long time.
John, you were talking about the number of shots and the sort of the grouping of them. It seemed to me that there were sort of 3 separate. There was an initial few, then there was another several, and then it seemed to me there was a third which seemed louder and produced more screams from somebody in the crowd, and that seemed to be off to the left of the former president. Is that your understanding as well? Because you had said that you thought the second grouping was the counter snipers hitting the shooter, it seemed to me that there was a sort of a single shot later on, but maybe.
Well, some technical difficulties there with CNN. Let's go ahead and go over to Dan Bongino.
I'm wrong.
Well,
and see what he has to say. Dan Bongino, who has a podcast, also is a former Secret Service agent during the Bush and Obama years. Let's see what he has to say.
For President Trump. If you go back and listen to episode 2079, President Trump does not have that. He doesn't have that now. I get it. There are some legalities involved. But President Trump is a former president running for re-election. You essentially have two incumbents running. Folks, he does not have a full presidential package right now. It is putting the man in danger. His threat level is apocalyptic and catastrophic. It is time right now for Kim Cheadle, the Secret Service director, to get her head out of her ass and do the right thing. I can tell you stories for days about her putting politics ahead of presidential protection. I am not being overly emotional because I've said it before. The Secret Service director is utterly unqualified right now to be doing what she's doing. It is time for her first to get this thing solved. It's an emergency situation right now and find out what happened, but she should step down immediately. Some of the things she has told people on that detail about security arrangements, clearly making political statements, she is completely unqualified. It is time for President Trump to have a full presidential package. I'll leave you with this, and then I'm asking you all, please, again, it's in these times where, you know, I'm not some freaking poet, man, so we don't need to do any of that stuff. I'm just saying, you know, like when these people get lost at sea, they have lighthouses and stuff for a reason, you know? God's that one for you. And he's that one for us right now. Just ask. Just open up. Prayer matters. It's not a joke. It's not some scam. What do you think? This was all created out of some kind of alien mist or something? We need him right now. The nation needs him. We're still the United States of America, even though we got a lot of crazy people. You don't want some foreign country right now taking advantage of this chaos. And on this, listen, I say all the time, maybe put a little smile on your face in a really tragic time. Campaigns are snapshots and sound bites. That's all they are. Donald Trump's got a lot of guts, man, getting up there, exposing himself again to what he knew was an assassination attempt, and pounding his fist in the air. That snapshot's going to live forever. That was a clip from the Dan Bongino Show. You can watch the full show. We recommend you do on Rumble. Go to rumble.com/Bongino, please, and subscribe for free. We appreciate it.
Real Talk with the RN Diva Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have done all we can do here tonight. We've done about 3 hours straight. Let's go back about 6:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Former President Donald Trump was shot at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, from a sniper shooter that was on a rooftop outside the perimeter of the event. Of course, he was shot almost instantly and killed. He was shot, looks like it grazed his ear, former President Trump's ear. There are reports that there's 2 fatalities, not including the shooter. And so we got to pray for those. Some people that were sitting in the bleachers right behind President Trump. Whether it's President Trump, whether it's President Biden, whether it's President Obama, whether it's President Clinton, whether it's President George W. Bush, This should not be happening. I remember the assassination attempt of Ronald Reagan back in 1981, a long time ago. It's getting too rough out there. I'm asking everybody to be careful. Don't be fearful, but be careful, because I don't think this is over yet. I just don't. You can put your comments down below, and we'll try to respond to them. Those of you on YouTube, those of you on X, those of you on Facebook, we'd love to hear your comments. If you want to help what we're doing, the information is down at the bottom of the screen. But anyway, Saturday, July 13th, now shall live in infamy, because this would be that shot of him. There's a couple of shots, actually. One of him where it looks like he was on the ground, the blood. Then when he was fist pumping, with the Secret Service carrying him out. Reports have said he's fine. He's already tweeted his Truth Social and all that, so he's okay. The Republican National Convention begins on Monday in Milwaukee. I'm sure they're going to be up in security detail there. They may change the whole format and may go virtual. I wouldn't be surprised. And then also, President Joe Biden has made two statements, and he's looking to speak to former President Trump as soon as he's able to. And he said he will let everybody know that. That's what he's supposed to do. No problem with that. But we need to pray for President Biden, former President Trump, RFK Jr., Cornel West, Jill Stein, all them folk that's running. Because I don't think this is over yet, and we need to tone it down. To those who thought this was fake, wow. Have we become so cynical that two people died, three people died, two people died, three people died. The main target didn't die, but got hit. And people will be living with that were there, traumatic, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and all that kind of stuff for the rest of their lives. I know that people hate Trump. Some people hate Biden. But I think it was staged. You might want to think about that one again. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. If you want to support what we're doing, the information is down at the bottom of your screen. Also, there it is right there as well. No pressure. Do what you can do. Zelle, Rob Carpenter 2 at iCloud.com. It's CashApp, $ Rob Carpenter 2. Venmo at Rob Carpenter 2. Coinbase with the cryptocurrency, Rob Carpenter II. PayPal at Rob Carpenter 2. And if you want to go to buymeacoffee.com/TheRCTV Network, please feel free to make a donation to what we're doing. Real soon, as you've been seeing throughout the breaks, we'll be coming back with Real Talk with the RN Diva, Pastor Robert podcast, available wherever you podcast. Diva's been on a project, and so we'll be so glad to have her back. Can't do it without her. And then those of you church folk, if you're interested as well, you can see that we've also started the COG Equity, the Church of God Equity podcast, also available wherever you podcast. And we'll be doing that weekly as well. We started that this week. So check it out. This is Pastor Robert here. Woo! Lord have mercy. I was getting ready for church. It's been raining all day. It's church tomorrow, but I got to get all ready again. All right. Hey, let's get on out of here. Pray for our country. We need it. We need it. God bless America. God help America. Peace out.
Real Talk with the RN Diva Pastor Robert podcast. Now streaming on X and wherever you podcast. Let's go.